Hello and welcome back for another episode of the Hesse Bros podcast. We are on to week 8 of the NFL season. Is it really going by that quickly? My
I
goodness.
can't believe it.
And now there's officially just one undefeated team left in the NFL. I mean, if anybody could have guessed it was going to be the back-to-back Super Bowl champions. Wow, what a shocker that is. But it's your boy B Hess and Luke Hesse joining me. Hell dog, what is good? Another great week of football.
It was a great week. Great to see you, B. Hess, and be back on the pod. Got a lot to talk about. And got started off with a couple of big wins from last week from our teams. Everyone basically knows it's the top two teams in the NFL. The Detroit Lions got off to a slow start, but were able to rattle it back with four straight scoring drives with touchdowns. And after that, all it took was a Jake Bates field goal. Even with a few mistakes in there, Detroit Lions are just too gritty. We're not going to get out of Minnesota without a W. How about Jahmyr Gibbs, though? That dude's an absolute dog.
Wow, his touchdown where he was just dicing guys up. What was a 46-yard run, and then he had another tutty as well. I will admit, Lions were scaring me early. The fake punt, I kind of knew they were going to do it. It was kind of dope. It had no chance of working. But that is Dan Campbell, and he just fires me up. But down 10-0, I will say, well, Lions, I was thinking to myself, Lions, well, it'll be fun to be the 5 seed, man. You'll get to play one of those NFC West teams or maybe Washington first round and have to come from behind as a wild card team. Well, then they flipped it on their head and they said it doesn't matter. We're 3-1 underdogs now and came back from 10-0 down to go up 21-10. And it looked like it could have been lock and chain mode. Then Monty with an uncharacteristic fumble. Glad to see he got back in the game. He was banged up, but then he had a bad fumble. It didn't matter though because I wasn't even trying to slander him last week. I said besides him, this is the best offense in the NFL if you just take out the quarterback. But it turns out my man Jared Goff, there's one thing that he hates more than my slander, and that is when the ball hits the ground. This man hates incomplete passes. He hates them. He hates them. He hates them. And he finds Gibbs. He finds Amon-Ra, gets him down the field, field goal range. Lions, top of the NFC.
There's no doubt about it. This guy's absolutely playing out of his mind. I never thought Jared Goff would be able to play this good. I knew he could make things happen when he has a running game, an offensive line, a few weapons. We saw it with LA, but now what he's doing with the Lions these past 4 games, you're right. The ball is not touching the ground, and every single ball is on point. His touchdown to St. Brown, an absolute dot through the seam,
Yes.
and he's just making plays whenever he needs it, even under pressure. And that's when a lot of people thought that Jared Goff would, take too many sacks, make big mistakes. Under pressure, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league as well. And as long as the Lions keep winning, there's a good chance he'll be on that MVP ballot and definitely getting some votes.
What about that play design or that idea on that St. Brown touchdown? Vikings did an all-out blitz. So then you run a wide receiver who's being covered by somebody that's 10 yards off the line of scrimmage to pick up the free blitzer, give them time for the seam route. Beautifully done by the Lions. They are such a fun team to watch. I never doubted when they were down 10-0. Don't ask around, don't call around to the people I was watching with because of course I had a hefty play on the two best underdogs of maybe the season, not just the week, which was Lions money line parlay with Chiefs money line, and that was a nuke. And I never doubted the Lions. Trust me, I never doubted them. They were always a full confidence in those boys from Detroit. What a win it was for Detroit. I mean, I'll give it to Minnesota. Let's talk Minnesota real quick because I didn't know if I still bought them. I mean, they've been beating great teams. I mean, obviously, they've got wins against the Packers, against the Texans, against the 49ers. Those are all teams that we expect to be there in the hunt come January. But after they looked a little shaky against the Jets at the end of that game, Darnold might have been finally coming across the end of Cinderella's ball into that pumpkin that we all expected him to be. It is that time of year. Pumpkins are everywhere. Is he one of them? He made one bad throw, but outside of that, I think that Minnesota played pretty well. They got diced up by Jared Goff. Their defense is so good against everybody else besides the Lions. They did a good job defensively, I guess. They came up with some big plays, but just Goff was able to move the ball. Vikings, I was impressed by them. In a loss, that was one of the most impressive losses of the season by any team, in my opinion.
I'd say so. I mean, this Vikings team, Darnold did play well, and it's hard to say that they're not the second best team in the NFC with what's been going on. You could say Packers, but I mean the Vikings are really balling out here, and they showed that they weren't a pushover at least whenever it came to the Lions. And it'll be interesting to see how they bounce back. You know how it goes after you play the Lions. You're in for a rough one the next week, usually all beat up. So it's going to be interesting to see the way that they're able to bounce back, especially on this short week coming up on Thursday night. We'll get into that game in a little bit. But BS, how about those Chiefs?
How about
Basically, a
those
dominant victory.
Chiefs? Even though the quarterback threw 2 interceptions early on, they also went for the fake punt. As soon as the Chiefs went for the fake punt and didn't get it, I knew they were going to win. It was like the best failed fake punt possible. So they're like, well, the Lions did it, and the Lions still won. So the Chiefs will definitely still win. So that was really awesome. It was a great failed fake punt. And then, of course, the very next series, Purdy, who definitely went full pumpkin mode, threw it right to Justin Reed for an interception. And the Chiefs picked off Purdy 3 times. The other 2 picks were in the second half, both by rookies, including an undrafted rookie, Chris Roland Wallace. I didn't even know he was on the active roster until I saw Purdy throw him the ball. I said, oh my goodness, that guy's more open than Ayuk was. Unfortunately, Ayuk done for the season. He kind of got the Rashee Rice treatment, which sucks. It's never good when awesome wide receivers get hurt like that. But the Chiefs, let's just start with what they're the best at. The best defense in the NFL. I've been saying it for weeks. I don't even know if it's debatable now. It's not even debatable. Chiefs defense just shut down the 49ers, who that hasn't been their problem. They've been able to score on people. They just haven't been able to play as good defense as normal. Well, they weren't able to score on the Chiefs. It took garbage time for them even to get to 18 points. So Kansas City, just electric, man. I mean, there's nothing more you can say. It was Kareem Hunt on the ground. Mahomes didn't have his best game, but when it mattered, he came up with 2 massive runs, slipping down the sidelines for his longest career rush. That actually shocked me. I thought for sure. I was like, okay, maybe they just mean regular season, because I vividly remember AFC Championship game 2019 against the Tennessee Titans. He went down the sidelines. Had to rewatch that one. That one was only 27. So it turns out it was his longest career rush. Pretty crazy. And then he absolutely trucked the dude to get in the end zone. And that was a safety that was laying the boom on people earlier in the game. But Mahomes said, not this time, not to basically seal the game. And that's exactly what he did. So yeah, the Chiefs just stay the Chiefs. They're not going to be the most exciting team this year. I think I've come to realize that, but they're just the best team in the league, and it's really not that close.
Well, it is pretty close. The Chiefs haven't played an offense like some of the better offenses in the league.
They played
And,
Baltimore. What do you mean they haven't played an offense? They played Cincinnati. They played Baltimore and Cincinnati week 1 and week 2. Those aren't good offenses. The
week 1 and
49ers,
week 2.
the 49ers
Right.
aren't a good offense. Since when are the 49ers not a good offense?
Purdy and those boys have not been playing that good. It's not the top echelon of offenses in the league. I would say that the Chiefs have been going up against. They have been playing well on defense, but I wouldn't say it's the upper echelon.
Name
We'll see
the
what
other better offenses than the 3 I just mentioned: Cincinnati, San Francisco, Baltimore. You can't name 3 that are better.
Lions for sure. Vikings, I would definitely put up there, and probably Packers too. But you're lucky you don't have to play those teams this year until maybe you get to the Super Bowl. So we'll see how they fare. But yeah, definitely probably the best defense. But let's talk more about that Mahomes run. I mean, I guess this dude is just he's faking like he's going out of bounds and running up the sideline,
Oh, he
but
got a good
we know
block.
he's Mahomes. He gets every single call. So what is this like? Next time he's going to be acting like he's going to do that same thing. He's going to run out of bounds, get boomed for a 15-yard penalty. I think that's what he's trying to set up because, I mean, what
That's
is even going on?
what the haters want to try to set up. The guy is running. He always does a fake when he's halfway down the field. He fakes like he's still going to throw the ball because people still jump at it. Go watch any game. They do that every time. Mahomes will fake like he's going to throw the ball when he's 5 yards down the field and people still jump at it. But if you want to watch, go watch Kareem Hunt. He throws the block on the guy that ends up going out of bounds. So he made him go out of bounds. Mahomes just cuts back behind him. It's really just a simple Mahomes fake and a cutback. That's exactly what happened. Anybody else that's seeing things That's just because they're sick of the Chiefs winning. And honestly, you know what? I get that. People are probably sick of the Chiefs winning, but they're gonna have to get used to it or find a different hobby because that's what happens on Sundays or sometimes on Mondays. Sometimes this year it's gonna be a Friday. I think we're even gonna win on a Wednesday. Definitely already won on a Thursday. A Saturday's coming too. So you're just gonna need to find new hobbies for every day of the week because you're not just safe on Sundays with the way the Chiefs are playing this year.
All right, I'm excited for a Sunday in February, whenever that's going to come to fruition there. I think we might see a little loss, but that's getting a little premature. Anything else you want to say about the Chiefs? I mean, that was a pretty good victory, but I mean, at the end of the day, the AFC is kind of trash, so I'm not really worried about them. The 49ers get another loss, and so it is what it is.
We can save the rest of the Chiefs talk for when we talk about the matchup this week, and we can move on to the other final really good game of the weekend, which was we talked about in your 12 pack. You had three matchups all between teams. I think we were in the top eight, and the Lions dispatched the Vikings in a great game. Chiefs dispatched the 49ers in kind of a boring blowout because the Chiefs are just that much better than everybody else. And then another great game was Packers Texans. It wasn't the big, flashy, high scoring game, but it was a big win for the Packers, big win for the NFC North. And CJ Stroud struggled in that one mightily, only 80 something passing yards. Is the Packers defense that good? Did CJ just have a terrible game? We saw, I mean, when my boy Caleb Williams did that week one, he only had 90 yards. Everyone just burned him to the ground. We are going to do the same thing to CJ Stroud this week, or does he get the pass? I don't know.
I think what we were seeing in that game is just the Packers' strategy was to not let CJ Stroud get hot. They were sending, their entire their entire defensive line to the quarterback, and you saw Joe Mixon get free for a lot of good rushes because they were all just focusing on, all right, we're not giving CJ Stroud if he play actions, all this. We're going to make sure we get him on the ground, and they did a good job of getting pressure on him the entire game. And CJ Stroud is definitely missing his number one wide receiver, Nico Collins. I mean, it's hard to see him have the type of game like that. Even with Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell, it seems like he's just missing that possession receiver that he needs in the middle of the field that can beat man coverage that Nico Collins is able to do. And so we're gonna have to see how CJ Stroud performs in the upcoming weeks without him.
So this was the only game out of the big three that we talked about that either of us got wrong. You were on Chiefs. I was on Lions. Of course, we were both on Chiefs and Lions on our own teams. I did side with the Packers in this game, although I was like, it's gonna be close. Just I'm gonna take them at Lambeau. You picked the Texans. So after the result, are you more impressed with the Packers or are you more disappointed in Houston?
I'm definitely more disappointed in Houston. Jordan Love played pretty solid, but you gotta hope that CJ Stroud can do better than that against, two of the biggest rising stars of quarterbacks in the league with Jordan Love and CJ Stroud. And CJ Stroud just fell completely flat in that game. It was embarrassing to see, and he's gonna have to bounce back from it. I think it just shows the higher level of play in the NFC in general. Obviously, the Chiefs are the number one team, but as far as some of these NFC teams go, these teams are the real deal compared to the AFC top opponents.
AFC not deep at all. It's Chiefs, it's Ravens, and then a gap, and then we could talk about who's next. And we will when we get to the 12 pack. And we've got a big slate of this week's game. So we're going to go really quickly on Monday night. Those are the only other games I really think are worth talking about. And it's going real quick. You pick one of the games, give me your takeaway, and I'll give you take my takeaway on the other game.
Well, the Ravens Bucks game, it was a great game, and I thought the Bucks had it. Mike Evans had the touchdown to go up 17-7, and he drops that. The Bucks end up throwing a pick that drive, and it was all downhill from there. Lamar showed his greatness, and then of course in garbage time, Chris Godwin goes down as well for the year. Absolutely devastating for the Bucks, and it's going to be hard to see them be able to win the division against the Falcons with not having their top two weapons on offense. The people that have been making Baker look so good this year, it's going to be real tough to see them flourish the rest of the year. I think the Bucks might be done.
Yeah. Yeah. That's basically kind of one of those games where the loss kind of feels like two losses for the Buccaneers. Not good for them, even though they played really well to start that game. So yeah, tough for them. My takeaway on the other game: sneaky Cardinals somehow just keep finding ways to beat good teams, and to and this is a team that, if you just look at their resume, impressive. The Cardinals' losses are against all teams that everyone agrees with are good teams. They've lost to the Lions. They've lost to Washington. They lost to the Packers. They don't lose to teams that aren't good. They just find ways to win. And now they have another win. That's impressive. I think that's a great win against the Chargers, along with the win against San Francisco a couple weeks ago. So this is an Arizona team that is hanging around, and they're getting more cohesive defensively. Kyler's electric. Now that Marvin Harrison connection's still not there, but they've got time to figure it out. They've already played the harder part of their schedule.
Yeah, the Cardinals look like they might be turning things up a notch, and it's just kind of tough to watch these Chargers right now. Their offense doesn't really have any great weapons for Herbert to throw the ball to, and it seems like their offense is out of sorts. I feel like it's going to take Harbaugh another year, getting some more of his players in the draft, maybe free agency to get a good wide receiver to really have this offense cooking the way he wants it to. And so the Chargers are probably going to be a solid middling team this year, but I don't see them making a whole lot of noise after what I saw last night. That was a big game for them to win.
Yeah, that's how I kind of felt going into the year. I just didn't see enough from this roster to make me believe they were going to be a playoff contender. So that's nothing surprised me on the Chargers side. Now we'll move on to this upcoming week in the NFL, week 8. Is that right?
Gosh, we're almost halfway done with the season. I can still remember the kickoff. That's like, yeah, it was yesterday. That's absolutely crazy.
And week 1 of the NFL season, the last game on that Sunday was the Rams taking on the Lions. That game went to overtime. Now we've got the Rams against another NFC North team for the first game of this week, and they are hosting the Minnesota Vikings. Initial impressions on this one. Hopefully, this will be out before this game happens, so we probably won't be able to spend as much time on it as we would like to, just in case it's not. But what's your thoughts on this one?
Initial thoughts are, like I said, the Lions just played the Vikings, just handed them their first loss, and now they got to have a quick turnaround to next week and playing the Rams. And Stafford's getting his guy back. Cooper Kupp could have played last week. They were saving him for this game. And I think that this is where the Rams have to turn the page. If they want to be able to win that NFC West, this is where they started. And they're only, what, 2 games back from the Seahawks? 1.5 games, something like that. So really, they're right there to be able to take this division if they can string together a couple of wins. And I think they're going to be able to do it this week. Both of these teams do not have great pass defenses. And so Stafford and Darnold, for that matter, are both just going to be airing it out. I mean, the Vikings do have a good defense, but I think that Stafford's going to be able to get it done on this short week like the Vikings have for that defense. I think that it's going to be a high scoring game for sure, and Stafford's going to be able to get it done in the end and some prime time fireworks. I love this game.
I like it too. Rams, my one of my upset specials of the week. So we won't spend any more time on it, but I do like the Rams to pull off the upset against the Vikings. Like I said, Vikings impressed me in the loss. I still think they're one of the best teams in the league. I just don't think that this week sets up that well for them. And like you mentioned, it's kind of a big opportunity for the Rams to try to get back in the division. Meanwhile, the Vikings, they'll be in the mix with that tight NFC North regardless. Okay, now we get on to Sunday slate, and we've got, of course, the Chiefs and the Lions both play pretty crappy teams, so we might as well start there, and then we can talk about some better matchups as we go through the rest of the week. Luke, Lions, Titans, we probably don't need to spend too much time on it. What's the focus for the Lions this week?
Well, the focus just has to be don't overlook any opponent. This is a pretty bad team. Let's bury them early, bury them quick. Let's see what Hendon Hooker has in the fourth quarter when we're up by 30 points, 24 points, something like that. And really, I just want this to be a bounce back game for David Montgomery. He had, a bad ankle or a bad injury, was able to get back into the game. I wasn't sure if he would be able to last week, but just get him the ball, get him back involved, and make sure this offense is humming. And just don't lose a step from where we've been playing. That's all you can ask for. And see if our pass rush is looking still pretty solid. That's something I'm definitely going to be looking for because The trade deadline's coming up, and the Lions need a player. We have been suffering injuries, it seems like, on this defensive line all year. So it's definitely gonna be something I'm looking out for. Maybe even watching some of these other games with bad teams and see if they have good defensive ends, defensive line, and the Lions can trade for, because we're gonna need it if we're gonna make this run to the Super Bowl.
So see, on the face, these matchups look pretty similar, right? Chiefs are 10-point favorites against the Raiders. Lions are 10-point favorites against the Titans. But that would be like if the Chiefs were playing the Panthers or somebody, you know, cross conference that they see once every 4 years. This is Raiders week. And I don't know if you remember, Luke, but you know who the last team, it's hard to remember. You have to go all the way back to last year. Who's the last team that beat the Kansas City Chiefs?
That was Christmas Day, wasn't it? The old Raiders. They had those two defensive and special teams touchdowns against the Chiefs early in that game and buried them.
And it was Aiden O'Connell, the last quarterback that beat the Chiefs. And then the Raiders, they were so hyped after that win. They were doing some crazy stuff in training camp, including this. Let's see if we can see this, everybody. This is a video of the Raiders. I'm here. So that's the Raiders in training camp that they think they can play around with the little Kermit the Frog Muppet saying Patrick Mahomes says, I'm here, I'm here. Well, guess who's going to be going back to your stadium where the last time he was there, confetti was raining down on his head top and Taylor Swift was on the field. That was obviously in the Super Bowl when they just beat the San Francisco 49ers, which they just did again last week. They're going to be coming for the Raiders, and Patrick Mahomes is certainly going to be here. And I think that Muppet right there is the reason why the Chiefs might have their best offensive game of the season. I think Patrick Mahomes goes for 3 touchdowns, whether that's through all 3 passing or 2 passing and 1 rushing. Mahomes he's gonna remember that. They asked him about it when it happened. He mentioned it, he referenced it, and he is not going to take that lightly. He's going to go to Allegiant Stadium where he won the Super Bowl, bury the stinky Raiders. Chiefs big over the Raiders, whether they try out their new toy, DeAndre Hopkins, or not this week. I'm sure he'll get on the field, whether he'll be prevalent. I'm not exactly sure, but Mahomes everywhere. Passing yards, touchdowns. It's probably come down. I mean, he probably lost if you bet Mahomes passing touchdowns and passing yards every week of the season. But this is the one where I would want it the most against the Raiders. Mahomes buries them.
Give me the Raiders plus 10. Antonio Pierce says he's got it figured out, and I don't have any reason not to believe him. Why not? Let's watch a game. Hopefully they keep it close.
Yeah. Well, that's all I need to see is the Muppet was out and Mahomes, he's going to be ready. So that's basically the Chiefs and Lions coverage for this week. There are a bunch of other good games, though. Where do you want to start?
Oh, yeah. Good question.
Want me
Let's
to give you
see.
one?
Yeah, let's go ahead.
I'll give you this one that I think is very interesting, which is the Eagles on the road at Cincinnati. Now, both Philadelphia and Cincinnati have been bad this year. I guess the Eagles have a winning record. Cincinnati's still coming back with a losing record. But it's really interesting because each of the last 2 weeks, these two teams have beaten the same crap teams just in reverse order. The Eagles beat the shit Browns and then the Giants, and the Bengals beat the shit Giants and then just beat the Browns. So they played the same 2 teams in the last 2 weeks, just flipped the order of them. And this is a big game because I think that, one of these teams probably will still be able to make some noise, get in the playoffs. They have talent, obviously. We saw what the Eagles could do with A.J. Brown. That was my only upset that was wrong last week. I had Cardinals, Chiefs, Lions. Those were all lock and chain mode. Giants was the opposite, which was a disaster bomb. I didn't have to watch after the halftime of that one because I knew that one was just already out the window. But A.J. Brown, Saquon, really talented guys. Of course, on the Bengals side, they have the same thing with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. One of these teams, I think, is going to be able to make some noise, and this game could go a long way in determining that. They're both on 2-game win streaks, but they both played shit teams in that span. Now one of them is going to get at least a semi-quality win against the other one.
This is a good matchup, and I'm ready to see what Joe Burrow is going to be able to do. I think these teams are very evenly matched, like you said, as far as their weapons go. Their defenses, Eagles are probably a little better, but I don't think a whole lot better in reality. And I think Joe Burrow is just the better quarterback. Jalen Hurts, he makes some good throws, but he also makes a lot of mistakes. He's got a lot of turnovers this year, and especially including last year at the end of the year whenever they completely fell apart. And so I'm on the Bengals this week with Joe Burrow. I feel like they are starting to turn things around like they do basically every year. They always start off slow, and then this is when they start to heat up and really look like that Super Bowl contender that everyone has in the back of their mind going into the year.
Yeah, we'll see. This is definitely more of just a watch game for me than an actual pick a side on it, I believe. So I'll just defer to you on that, and we will move on to the next matchup because I think there's a chance that one of those two teams might find their way as the last spot in my 12 pack going into the end of this show. So stay tuned for that. Maybe that'll give away who I'm going to end up picking in that matchup. But it is a close game and a very interesting one because I think, like I mentioned, both these teams are on the brink of maybe getting over the hump and being able to make some noise in the playoffs.
For sure. All right, now let's hop over to Jacksonville. I don't understand this line at all. The Packers are only 4-point favorites going to Jacksonville. I guess, they were able to beat the Patriots. I mean, who cares? The Jags are trash, and they might be without ETN again. Bigsby did play good, but the Jaguars' pass defense is so bad, and Jordan Love is just going to absolutely air it out all over this team. I feel like the Packers absolutely blow them out. This is just probably the easiest bet of the week, in my opinion. Only 4 points to the Packers. Come on.
Yeah, I don't get this one at all. That's definitely one of the ones that I locked eyes on like a heat seeking missile. And I'm not even the Jaguars hater out of the two of us. That would be you. And you've been absolutely right. So I'll give you that, except for last week when you did predict Peterson to be stuck in London after they lost back to back London games, which didn't happen. But other than that, you've been dead on with this team all year round. And I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. Jaguars just frankly aren't a good team. And, they were stuck in London for 2 weeks. Now they finally get home. That's going to take a little bit of time to readjust to, even though it's a home game for them. Usually, when teams come back from London, they get a bye. That's not the case for them. I think that makes it more challenging. So, yeah, I like the Packers, and I like the Packers by a healthy margin in that one. Okay, another game I want to talk to you about is the Bills on the road at Seattle. And Buffalo, they started slowly, but ended up cooking the Titans really easily. They're 5-2. And they got Amari Cooper, who had a touchdown, and he's definitely going to help that offense, it appears, against the Seahawks, who's been one of my fades recently. I faded them against the Giants. The Giants won outright against the 49ers on a Thursday night not too long ago. But then the Seahawks looked really good against Atlanta. And maybe that was just enough to convince me that the Seahawks at home, Bills have to travel cross country from Buffalo, New York, all the way to Seattle, Washington. Seahawks are 3-point underdogs. I like Seahawks outright in that one. There's Josh Allen hasn't thrown an interception this year. That can't continue. Excuse me. This could be the week, and I think that it's going to be against the Seahawks. Even if DK Metcalf, it looks like he's going to be out for this game. Seahawks, though, they're getting healthier in the secondary. I like Seahawks in this game.
I don't know about that one. I probably won't bet this game, but I do think the Bills probably squeak out a W. I really think that Geno just has to carry this team for them to win, and I don't know if he's going to be able to do it again. The Bills have been playing a lot better, and I think Josh Allen's got what it takes, especially with that new weapon in Amari Cooper. I find it hard to bet against Josh Allen against this Seahawks defense. They have not been playing very good, and the reason why Geno absolutely torched the Falcons is because the Falcons have no pass rush. If the Bills are able to get any pass rush on him, it's going to disrupt the game, and I think the Bills come away with this one.
Fair enough. Any other one you got your eye on you want to move to next?
Yeah, sure thing. Shout out to Q. We haven't been talking about the Falcons too much, but this week we have a game where it's the Falcons at Tampa Bay. The Falcons already beat them. This is an absolute thriller on Thursday night a few weeks ago. And these are two teams we've had back to back in our 12 packs recently. I'd like to know what you think about this game. Does Tampa Bay not have the juice after losing their wide receivers? What are your thoughts, Brent?
Yeah, so this one is one that whenever I was scrolling through the lines Monday during the day, before Monday Night Football, I was like, just saw the Falcons get pretty much manhandled by Seattle at home. And I saw Buccaneers were only a point or two favored on Monday. I was like, ooh, I think I like the Buccaneers. They're going to want to get that one back. They didn't get stolen from, but they were about as close as you could come to win a game in the NFL without winning on that Thursday night game. If they don't get the spike down in 1 second, if they don't fumble the ball late in that game, if they win the coin toss in overtime, so many ways the Buccaneers could have won that game. But now it's a perfect storm for Atlanta. This is the perfect storm for them. They survived, they escaped. These two teams are obviously one of the twos winning the division. The Saints and the Panthers are both absolutely trash. One of these two teams is making the playoffs, and it's a perfect storm for Atlanta because they survived that game. They got out of it, and then they come away unscathed. And now they get the Buccaneers, who are coming off a short week, and like I mentioned, they're basically coming off a double loss. Not only did they feel like they could beat the Ravens, they come out and they play like they could beat them. Then they make some mistakes. Baker throws some interceptions. Evans, he gets hurt, doesn't come down with a grab in the end zone. Then, of course, the Godwin thing at the very end is just extremely deflating. And they got some pieces hurt in the secondary in that game. So now the line is completely different. Now Atlanta's the favorite on the road because of the injuries that happened on Monday night. And now I'm going to be rooting for Atlanta because I've got Atlanta, Detroit, and Kansas City all to win their division. And I think if the Falcons can win this game, I don't see how the Buccaneers are going to be able to overcome it. I still think the Buccaneers are the better team if Mike Evans is there, even if without Godwin, even if you just have one of the two. I still think the Buccaneers might be the better team, but it's a perfect storm for Atlanta. They have to capitalize and they have to win this game.
This is definitely going to be a statement game for the Falcons. Like you said, 4-0 in the division at this point in the season. There's almost no way they don't run away with it and are able to take it down at the end of the year with that tiebreaker they're going to have against the Buccaneers. I feel like they have to get it done, and I'm just excited to watch this one. I don't think I'm going to bet it, but it is definitely an interesting one for sure.
That's a huge opportunity for the Falcons. I think they have to come away with it. Now, this is a game I was really excited for also before a tough injury on Sunday, and that was Bears against the Commanders. It was supposed to be Jaden versus Caleb. Commies are 5-2. Bears are 4-2. These are both teams I was super high on to begin the year, and they both made me look really, really smart, even smarter than I actually am, which is pretty tough to do because I'm pretty locked in as it is. But yes, now Jaden Daniels probably not going to play with these rib injuries that he suffered against the Panthers in a dominating win. So that makes this game a lot less of a luster. But my thought on it is big opportunity for the Bears to be able to get a win if they don't have to play Jaden. Even if they do, it's going to be a great game. If they don't play Jaden, it's another one, kind of like the Falcons. You can't miss this opportunity. You have to win this game, especially with how competitive the NFC North is.
I'm right there with you, Brent. I think that the Bears probably get this one done if Daniels doesn't play. I just haven't seen enough from the Commanders. They were able to absolutely beat down the Panthers last week, but that's not enough to prove that they can do what they did against that team to this pretty solid Bears defense, one of the best in the league. And the way that Caleb Williams has been playing, just trending up all year long, it's hard to see him not having a good game. I think the Bears probably get this one done in NFC North fashion. I mean, we used to absolutely love to destroy any team that's not in the NFC North whenever any of these four teams play.
Quick
I'm going
question
with
for
the
you.
Bears.
If the Bears and Caleb Williams win, regardless of who's playing at quarterback for Washington, Caleb Williams is back to Rookie of the Year favorite, correct?
I'd say he's up there for sure.
I
I
mean, Jaden's a
mean,
favorite right now, but if Caleb wins, regardless, because if Caleb wins because Jaden's hurt, well, that's going to hurt your odds to win Rookie of the Year if you can't be playing in the biggest games. And this is a big game for that milestone. And if the Bears win, they'll have a better record than Washington. Right now, Washington's a half game up. If Caleb wins, regardless of who he's playing against on the other side at quarterback, he's back to being rookie of the year favorite in my eyes.
That's a good point. That makes sense. Halfway through the year, that seems like that's where it would sit. This game being laid in front of both these two teams, why not make it a rookie of the year showcase halfway through the year?
Yep. So hopefully it is Jaden. I love watching him play, but I'm excited to see what Caleb can do regardless because I've got the Bears going far. So that's a big one for me. Any other ones before we get to the Sunday night game? I think we'll definitely talk about that one. Any other ones before that?
Real quick, I just gotta talk about this Arizona Cardinals versus Miami Dolphins game. These are two teams in my fantasy league that I drafted two players from both these teams in the first 6 rounds, and they've all been absolute duds with Tua going down and the Cardinals offense not playing the way that they should for the majority of the year.
Well,
I'm
that just
just
means you have
praying that it's a high scoring
You
game.
have Marvin Harrison. If you have James Conner, you're doing great. You got Trey McBride, you're doing pretty good.
Yeah, McBride's decent, but mainly Achan and Tyreek in those first two picks. I'm just wishing that Tua could have played, and I'm hoping that he's back to who he was before, and this offense starts cooking again. This is just a wait and see as far as the betting goes. I just want to see what Tua looks like. Hopefully, he's back in action and back to slinging the rock around the field to Tyreek and them boys.
Yeah, it's kind of a wait and see, but it's also kind of just, man, these people still disrespect my Arizona Cardinals. 3.5 point dogs when they just beat the Chargers and they've already beaten the 49ers. And who are the Dolphins beating? Dolphins beat the Titans and the Patriots. Those are the two worst teams in the league. And yeah, Tua might be back, but it's his first game back. It's not like we've seen him light the league up in the last month or two. And even the last time we saw him play healthy, he threw 3 interceptions against the Bills. So give me the points with the Cardinals because they just stay disrespecting those guys. I'll take Arizona, and that'll move us on to Sunday night. Now, here's another game where both teams really need it. It's very similar in my eyes to kind of the Bucks Falcons game or the Eagles Bengals game. Cowboys 49ers. Both teams need it bad.
Absolutely. And this is kind of just where I want to see, does the Lions hangover game cross over bye weeks even? I don't know. This is where we figure out if it happens because Cowboys haven't played a game since they got destroyed by the Lions. But does the bye week kind of create a little buffer where they still might win a game? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, but probably not. The 49ers should be able to win this game. Purdy has to get back on track. This is one of those games where if Purdy wants to get paid, he lost his receiver in Ayuk. If he wants to get that contract that he honestly probably deserves for making it to the Super Bowl last year, he needs to win this game against the Cowboys. Last year, they blew him out whenever he did have all of his Avengers with McCaffrey and Ayuk, but he has to be able to win this game without those players to really cement himself as, a franchise QB in this league.
For me, this game's pretty simple. The 49ers, I thought were a top five, not five, top eight, top 10 team going into last week. Everyone's lost to the Chiefs. Doesn't change my thoughts on the 49ers. Still a good team. Yeah, Ayuk, that's tough. Cowboys, on the other hand, not a good team. Never thought they were. Then gave them a little bit of too much benefit of the doubt going into that Lions game, but then watched them get destroyed. And the 49ers love whipping up on the Cowboys. It's one of their favorite things to do because it feels like a big game. Oh, we're playing Dallas. But then it's like, oh, we're actually just playing like the Seahawks or somebody that's just average because that's what they are. The Cowboys are just average, and the Niners will dominate at home. So I definitely like Niners -4 on Sunday night. And that's
Well,
basically going to be it. Monday night, there is a game, but it's the Giants, who I'm not really happy with after their performance last week against Russ. What do we think about Russ? He started really slow against the Jets, and then he came on. I mean, obviously they should beat the Giants at home. He gets the New York teams back to back, but what do we think?
I think he should be able to play really well again. I think sitting there for a little bit behind Justin Fields might have humbled him a little bit, gotten him a little bit, more in the zone and back to where he used to be. He didn't play terrible last year in the Broncos. It just was not a good fit at all with Sean Payton, in my opinion. And I mean, he can be a solid quarterback in this league. This is the lowest over under of the week by far, only 36 points. But I like the over. Why can't these teams put on somewhat of a show for us on Monday night? You got to think they can get to 37 points in an NFL football game. Daniel Jones isn't that bad. Malik Neighbors is going to be out there. There's some good weapons on these teams. Come on, slam the over.
I don't know about that. In my spread pick'em league, the tiebreak is always the Monday night score, and I was going through that earlier today. I had it written in at 29. I didn't even know what the over under was, but I was like, well, that's a little bit too low. Let me at least just play the field. It's like if you're guessing number 5, 1 through 10, you don't want to guess 2 because the other person can just guess 3 and you only get 2 numbers. So I'm like, I'll go up a little bit. I put it at 33, and that felt generous because I wanted to go 29. So yeah, I won't be touching the over in that game. That is for sure. But yeah, I won't be on the Giants again. I'm 1 for 2 with them, so I'm still winning money because that's what underdog better does. He bets plus money. But after that beat down against the Eagles, won't be touching the Giants for probably the rest of the season. Once you get to this point in the year, the really bad teams just go on the no-fly list. The Patriots are on that list. The Panthers are certainly on that list. And the Giants have been added to. The Jets might be on that list here in a moment. Who knows? But anything else to talk about in terms of week 8 before I get thirsty and take down a 12 pack, listing off my top 12 teams in the NFL right now?
Let's go. I want to hear it. I want to hear about that 12 pack over there, B has. And I mean, these games are looking really exciting this week. What another week of football. This is going to be awesome. Let's hear your top 12 teams, B Hess. What do you got for us?
At number 12, this is the hardest one I had to decide on. And I just decided, you know what? Why don't I just be smart? Because in 3 weeks, this team is going to be a staple in the top 12. So why don't I just be the one to put them in there first? And that is going to be the Cincinnati Bengals at number 12. They're not going to be the only 3-4 team in this 12 pack. So might as well. If another team can be 3-4 and be in it, the Bengals can be 3-4 and be in it as well. So I've got them at number 12. Right ahead of them at number 11, another team in their division, the Pittsburgh Steelers. We just talked about it. I was not a fan of the move to go to Russell Wilson, and I looked like a guru through the first half of that game. I did have the Jets in that one, and then somehow Russ got cooking. I don't know what more to explain it. Maybe George Pickens just bailed him out. Freiermuth had a nice catch to bail him out, but turns out they dominated the Jets. Jets crumbled, and the Steelers, we know their defense is good. Tomlin's a smart coach. I thought it was a dumb move to put in Russ. Clearly, he knew what he was doing, at least through one game. And I don't see why that won't be the case against the Giants. So Steelers, good team at 11. At number 10, the Chicago Bears. They just keep moving on up. They are one of the best teams in the league, I think, top 10. And it's because that defense is fierce. And it's because that quarterback keeps getting better and better. The game in London a couple of weeks ago, the last time they played, they were on bye, just diced up the Jaguars. Caleb Williams was throwing all over the park, all over the pitch, and I like what I saw. Now he's got a matchup against another leaky defense in Washington this week. Bears go at number 10. At number 9 is the other 3-4 team on my list, and that is the San Francisco 49ers. San Francisco, like I said, you lose to the Chiefs, that doesn't really hurt you in my rankings because everyone loses to the Chiefs. So that's like a neutral. It's almost like a bye. I mean, it hurts your record, but it doesn't hurt you in my 12 pack. And their game before that was their best win of the year. Their wins are not very good. Don't look at their wins because they have not beaten good teams. But they did win at Seattle, and that is a good win. Their other wins are against the Jets and the Patriots. But their win was against Seattle 2 weeks ago, and now they're going to have another win against the Cowboys this week, or they'll be out of my 12 pack. But for now, 49ers at number 9, even though they're a bit banged up. At number 8 is going to be the Buffalo Bills. Bills, I mean, I think they're good. I just think the commentary is what it is. They lost their weapons on the outside. Josh Allen is playing controlled football, but He's not throwing for a bunch of yards, and he hasn't really had to. But in the games where they've lost against the Ravens and the Texans, it would have been nice if he would have had some weapons. He didn't, and one of those games he got blown out. The other one, he completed one out of every three passes. So I just think the Bills are what they are. They can beat the trash teams. They've always beat the trash teams, and they always lose to the really good teams, especially this year when they don't have the weapons. That's the Bills for you at number 8. Number 7, this is a ranking with my guy, Jaden Daniels, in at quarterback. The Commanders come in at number 7. Now, I don't think they'll have him this week, which is why obviously it's going to be tough against the Bears. But if he's healthy, it's a whole different ball game. And hopefully he can get back to health because it's just another easy win for Washington this week. They continue to impress. I like this team a lot. We already know that. I've got them to win the division at 13-1 odds at the start of the year. So, yes, Washington, number 7. Now we get to my top 6. And these are, I believe, the same top 6 that you had last week, Luke. Maybe a different order. We'll find out. At number 6, the Houston Texans. Houston, disappointing against Green Bay, but I'm seeing everyone dropping them way down. They beat the Bills. They're still better than the Bills. They almost won that game. If they manage the clock better at the end, maybe they score a touchdown or maybe they kick a field goal as time expires and win the game. Instead, they gave the ball back and Jordan Love went down the field and won at home in a game-winning field goal by 2 points. It's not like they got blown out, not like they made a fool of themselves, embarrassed, put together a bad performance on the road. Young quarterback, CJ Stroud, he still does need to learn some things. You know, everyone wants to crown him after 1 year. He's a great quarterback, no doubt about it, but there's still a lot of growing pains to be done in the NFL for a second-year guy, and I think he's going to learn some from that game. It was a bad performance by him, but he'll learn from it. The team still was right there with the chance to win at the end. I'm not taking away too much from that poor Texans performance. At number 5 is the Green Bay Packers, the team that beat them. Packers just slowly getting better and better. I kind of thought their season might be shot after the Brazil game. They lose to the Eagles. Jordan Love gets hurt. He looks like he might be out for half the season. I was like, well, there goes the season for the Packers. No, Malik Willis does great. Love comes back in. They've been pretty much flawless since he came back in, except for that slow start in his first game back against the Vikings. Then he stormed back, almost won that game. So, yeah, Packers are a legitimate team. I think they are fair right there at number 5. Number 4 is going to be the other team in the NFC North, the Minnesota Vikings. I was really impressed, even in a loss. I think the Vikings played extremely well. Now, I think they are in trouble maybe this week on Thursday against the Rams just because of the circumstances of that game. But overall, as a whole, this team is really good, and they are going to be a threat going forward as long as Darnold doesn't go full pumpkin mode. He's definitely still, though, on pumpkin watch as we get closer to Halloween. Now at number 3, the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson, could he win his 3rd MVP before before Mahomes? It's definitely possible if he keeps putting together 5 touchdown performances with only having 5 incomplete passes. I mean, I think Mahomes has thrown 5 interceptions more recently than he's thrown for even 3 touchdowns in a game because he had 2 interceptions last week, no touchdown passes. Meanwhile, Lamar is just going crazy. Love Lamar. What a goat. And, of course, King Henry. King stays king, just absolute beast mode. And then you got Lamar blocking downfield for him like 30 yards. That's just insanity. Ravens are a very fun team. Their defense still extremely shaky. That's why they're only at 3. Number 2 is the Detroit Lions for a lot of the same reasons as the Ravens. They're basically the same team, but just on opposite conferences. A dynamic offense with Jared Goff, who hates incomplete passes. 2 extremely good running backs. The wide receivers, this week it was crazy guys. I didn't even know who they were that were making huge plays like Tim Patrick and Khalif Raymond. It's like just guys are picking up off the streets, but they were popping off. Of course, the Sun God was still making massive plays in the end zone and late in the game to get them into field goal range. Sneaky Sam, he's always there underneath. Now it's that defense you got to worry about. Brian Branch, he's dope. But who else do they have outside of them on the defense? That's the question. So Lions at number 2. And, of course, number 1 is the Kansas City Chiefs. It's the 2-time Super Bowl champions. It's the team that just added DeAndre Hopkins, who now he is going to probably score a game-winning touchdown in the Super Bowl or have the longest punt return in the Super Bowl, because that's what happened the last 2 years whenever the Chiefs have traded for a wide receiver in the middle of the year. So just can't wait to see what sort of record DeAndre Hopkins breaks in the Super Bowl, like Mecole Hardman and Kadarius Toney have done the last 2 years. That's going to be most of the intrigue the rest of the way for the Kansas City Chiefs. So that is my 12 pack and perfect list, Luke. It was similar to yours last week, so I will say you were onto something, but I just tweaked a couple things and now it's perfect.
That was pretty similar. B has way to rattle it off there. I feel like the only few things I don't know about is Chicago just seems a little bit too high right now. Having them already in the top 10, I feel like they should be sitting more 11, 12, maybe 13, but probably 11 or 12.
Give me a team you
Um,
like more than them that's either behind them or that's not on the list.
yeah, I mean Pittsburgh and Cincinnati for sure. I would say those two teams probably should be moved ahead of them. But even besides that, I mean, you have Seattle winning this week against Buffalo. You could say, maybe move them ahead of the Bears. Those are just some teams, but I get it is pretty jumbled up there at the 10, 11, 12 spot. That makes sense. I also think you should put the Bills above the Commanders at this point. I think just that one notch ahead of them, what the Bills were able to do last week. I mean, they played a bad team, the Commanders played a bad team, but just, seeing what happened with Jaden Daniels, his durability is definitely a question. And if they don't have him, it's hard to say a perennial, great quarterback like Josh Allen isn't ahead of that team as it stands now. But besides that, I like the list. I think you got the top five right for sure. And three of those NFC North teams up there. What a year. What a
Top
year for
five, you think
football.
it's right exactly in the same order? You like that order perfectly?
I think you nailed it with that. That seems right with me. You could switch Green Bay and Minnesota. That's the only one where it's like that's kind of a coin flip to me. Minnesota did beat them earlier in the year though, so give the nod to them for sure.
And then I had to drop both NFC South teams out, Buccaneers and Falcons, kind of for different reasons. Falcons just because they played really bad, and Buccaneers because they got hurt and kind of feel like they're pretty much toast now. I don't know how to say goodbye to both of them. They've both been mainstays in our 12 packs, but not this week. They made room for some AFC North teams instead.
They definitely have to drop with what their performances and what happened last week, and it is definitely going to be an interesting game. That Eagles Bengals game is going to probably be to see who gets back in the 12 pack next week. Stay for that. And Brent, why don't you finish off? What are your top bets of the week? Reiterate those for us.
Well, of course, my big upset is Thursday, Rams against the Vikings. So hopefully you see this in time to get that one in. And then for Sunday, I do like the Seahawks at home, underdogs against the Bills. And then my favorites that I like, well, also I like the Cardinals, underdogs on the road at Miami. And then some favorites I like that are only laying 4 points each, Packers and 49ers. And then my player prop of the week, Mahomes over passing touchdowns. If you can get 1.5, then that's guru. If you can take 2.5, you might as well lay the juice if you can get a juicy odds, because Mahomes is here. Yes, he's here. Even if you think he's a Muppet, he's about to bury those Raiders. So that is my picks of the week.
All right, B Hess, you already know I'm with you with the Rams, but I'm not with you with the Chiefs. Raiders plus 10. They keep it close. Good divisional matchup there. We'll see what happens. Lions beat down the Titans minus 11. Couldn't be easier. Probably tease it up to 20. See what good odds you can get there. Green Bay, such an easy bet, and Cincinnati Bengals are going to be able to get it done. All right, well, everyone enjoy some football. Any final thoughts, B Hess?
That's pretty much it. Chiefs and Lions, big money maker for me last week. Thank you very much. Hopefully you tailed those two teams because they're both dope. And I'm excited for some more football. Thanks for watching Hesse Bros Pod. Make sure you like and subscribe and comment down below some of your favorite bets of the week or anything that you think I may have gotten wrong on my 12 pack. Would love to hear it. And we'll see you again next week for some more football.